folks, Ariel over here. Today I wanted to show you a little bit of potato harvesting. These are what would be called new potatoes. They are not ready to harvest the whole plants by any means. The plants are still green. If you're harvesting them to store through the year like we usually do, you want these plants to be fully died back and dead and brown on the ground first. But you don't have to wait to start eating potatoes till then. I could dig up a whole plant right now and just take all the potatoes it has growing. As long as you're using them relatively soon, they'll be fine. They don't have a thick enough skin yet to keep well. But without even doing that, we are starting to eat potatoes. This is a Huckleberry Gold. It's a really, it's supposed to be like a Yukon Gold, but it's got a purple skin and it's creamy yellow inside. It's the first year we've grown this particular variety, but that's what's at this end of this bed. And so I had somebody ask me the other day if you can grow potatoes in a raised bed, how deep of soil do they need? They might like deeper soil, but these beds are only 8 inches deep, and they can put some little feeder roots down deeper through the hardware cloth. But if you look back at how we put these together to keep the pocket gophers out, there's a hardware cloth mesh under there, so they can't like grow a potato down through that. And every year they seem to do great. We got 320 pounds of potatoes last year out of 2 beds, like this size times 2. They were at the other end of the garden last year, but they seem to do well. They might do better if they had more depth, but they certainly do well enough. So at this time of year, before they're really dying back and ready to actually harvest them all, I don't hill the potatoes because they're growing in a raised bed. We don't really turn the soil, other than it gets mixed a little when you're pulling potatoes out, or carrots, root veggies like that. But so I don't really have a setup where I can hill them. And any that push up toward the surface as they're growing can get sunburned and turn that green color that you don't really want. So what I start doing is at this time of year, I just go through here and kind of look under the plant leaves, and anywhere I see, oh, it looks like a bump, like something's pushing up on the soil, I just feel around through it with my fingers and grab the potato, because pretty much all such bumps are a potato forming. And if it's not out on the surface, it's about to be. And so we just eat those. The rest of the plant can go on growing. It can go on feeding nutrients to the other potatoes that are further down in the soil. And then the ones that are close to coming to the surface don't get sunburned. Now these all are making, that's about the size so far of the Huckleberry Gold ones I've got. One of our other varieties down there, I've already pulled out some that were this big, and they were really trying to push through the surface. But this lets us eat some fresh potatoes at this time of year, while the plants just keep right on growing and making more, which is pretty exciting, I think. So I thought you guys might like to see that. Let me get the camera over here to where you can see what I'm actually looking at. Now we're looking straight down on the potato leaves, and if I can move them enough for the camera to see in the shadows there, I can kind of see a bump right here. So I'm just going to very carefully with my fingers reach in there, and there is 2 potatoes, and then I just kind of knock the soil back, and I don't know if you can see there's kind of a bump forming right here. So again, I'm going to reach in, and there's one and a little one here. And if I come over right here at the base of this plant, kind of between these 2, I can see a bump forming. And our soil's pretty nice and loose now, even for the heavy clay we start out with. That was a bump because there was 4 right there. Once again, as I look in the soil surface here, you can see how it's kind of pushed up and starting to crack here. So something is shoving on it. That's a red potato. Actually 2 of them. Now I just knock the soil back into that hole so it doesn't expose any others. Now of course, when you harvest a bunch of potatoes at this size, that does mean you will get a little smaller harvest of big ones later, because some of these would have gotten bigger had they kept growing. But that's not a big deal for us. We have enough growing that we seem to have plenty every year, and so I don't mind eating some of them now when they're smaller and not waiting till they're all huge. But it will give you a couple more red ones. It will give you slightly less total volume of production if you do this to your plants. But it seems to work out really well in our raised bed setup here. I can start harvesting the top ones they don't stick up and get sunburned that way. And we get to eat some fresh potatoes here at, you know, the end of July, beginning of August is when we can usually start eating some. And some of them are already getting pretty sizable, like that guy, without having to wait till the end of the year. Our potatoes last year did last us. I still have a few very shriveled up ones that I will probably feed to the chickens or put in the compost, because we're down to just the very last few for the year. But they did last us all winter, and we ate our own potatoes the whole way through the year until we got new ones coming in. So that's an idea. If you raise your potatoes in raised beds or in the ground, our soil is just really nice and soft here, and because of the raised bed, we're not hilling them at all. So removing the ones that would otherwise start to get sunburnt can be helpful. Though the plants are planted thick enough, they can't get a lot of sunshine right on them, even when they start to push out of the soil. So that is also helpful, having the plants planted that thickly, with keeping it from getting lots of sunburned potatoes. So hopefully that gives you an idea. If you've got any growing, potatoes are generally a very easy thing to grow, at least if you're in the cooler parts of the country. And I don't mean you have to be as cold as us. I think they might be a little more challenging to grow, at least in the summer in, I don't know, Texas or Florida or something, because they're naturally a cool weather crop from high in the Andes. But you don't have to be near as cold as us for potatoes to grow quite well. We grew them, lots and lots of them, in Pennsylvania when I was growing up in about a zone 7. They grow well here. We're closer to like a zone 3. But this is going to go to making some Finnish summer soup. Check out that cool midsummer harvest of new potatoes. Thanks for spending your valuable time with us.
I hope you learned something interesting and useful.
Or found something beautiful here.